Hey everybody, welcome to the 250th edition of NoDQ&A video. That's right, 250 episodes now of this video series here on NoDQ.com. Thank you guys so much for all your support over the past year and a half now, and let's keep it going. Let's get right down to your questions on this very special extended edition of NoDQ&A video. This first one comes from Coolman23. Hey Aaron, what are your thoughts on Bret Hart throwing Triple H under the bus, saying he's not a great wrestler and that he hasn't had a great match in WWE, etc.? Well, I wouldn't go as far to say that Triple H is not a great wrestler and he hasn't had a great match. That's just not true in my opinion. I think that Triple H has had lots of classic WWE matches, and I would say he's a great wrestler. I would say he's a great performer, a great sports entertainer, whatever you want to call it. I do agree with Bret Hart when he talked about the match against Undertaker, Triple H versus Undertaker from last year being a little bit overrated. I do agree with Bret Hart on that. I was quite critical of that match. I mean, it was very memorable in the sense that it was Hell in a Cell WrestleMania, and you had Shawn Michaels as the referee, and then you had the big embrace at the end. So I mean, that was great WWE history right there. But the match itself, from a technical standpoint, wasn't all that good, and I was critical of it at the time, and I got a lot of negative feedback from people. You know, people saying that that was one of the best matches of all time. I disagree. I don't think it was one of the best WrestleMania matches ever. Certainly not one of the best Undertaker matches from a technical standpoint. So when it comes to that, I do agree with Bret, but I still think Triple H is one of the all-time greats in WWE, and I think that he earned that spot as being one of the top guys in WWE. All right, this one comes from Chris Prez Announce. Do you think Brian Pillman would have been the next HBK or Stone Cold Steve Austin if he was never in the car crash? If Brian Pillman didn't have all those problems, I absolutely think that he would have been a major star in WWE. Brian Pillman's character was very edgy, and he was a perfect fit for the Attitude Era. So I have no doubt that had he stayed healthy and lived, I think that he would have done really well in WWE during the Attitude Era. I think we would have seen an epic feud between him and Steve Austin during the late 90s. So yeah, Pillman was a great fit for the Attitude Era, but it just his health took a toll on him, unfortunately. This one comes from Showstopper526. Hey Aaron, now that Brock Lesnar has signed on for another 2 years, do you think he can possibly turn face in the future? I think it would be a good idea to turn him babyface at some point. He already gets big pops from the crowds, and if you're turning Randy Orton heel, and Orton's one of the guys that's rumored to be feuding with Lesnar in the next year, it would make sense to have Lesnar as a babyface against a heel Randy Orton. And if CM Punk stays a heel, and you do CM Punk versus Brock Lesnar, and you kind of have Paul Heyman there in the middle between the two of them, you could have Paul Heyman side with CM Punk, and then Brock Lesnar goes face to feud with Punk. So it certainly makes sense to turn him face at some point, especially if he's going to be feuding with those guys. And maybe you could keep him as a heel for feuds like Lesnar versus Sheamus or Lesnar versus Del Rio. I mean, there's a lot of possibilities you can do if you're going to be keeping him around for the next couple years. But yeah, I think that him turning face makes a lot of sense, and it wouldn't surprise me to see it happen. All right, this one comes from Ricky Lawson. Hey Aaron, in your opinion, who had the greatest Iron Man performance in the Royal Rumble match? I have to say Ric Flair, because Ric Flair was the first one to do it. Ric Flair came in at number 3 and lasted the whole thing, and that was the story of that Royal Rumble. And Ric Flair is Ric Flair. Nobody can really top that, although I would say Shawn Michaels, the 1995 performance, even though the difference was that was a short Royal Rumble match. That was they cut the intervals in half, and it was only every 60 seconds that the guy was coming out. So I mean, Ric Flair's was actually more impressive because he was in there about an hour. So I would still go with Ric Flair. He was the original Royal Rumble Iron Man. And I think he set the bar so high that not even Shawn Michaels could reach that level. This one comes from 5K Rappy. Could you see referees like Charles Robinson, Mike Chioda, and Scott Armstrong being inducted into the Hall of Fame, considering their long and deep connected careers with WWE when they call it quits? Thanks, bro. Um, I would love to see WWE branch out a little bit and start inducting some of the people behind the scenes, and inducting the referees. And I'd love to see Jim Johnston get into the Hall of Fame. As far as referees go, Charles Robinson would be a great pick for the Hall of Fame, and you could have Ric Flair induct him. That would be a lot of fun. I don't know if it's going to happen because of the circumstances that they left, but I would love to see the Hebner brothers get into the Hall of Fame, and they could show the footage. They were involved in a big storyline with Hogan and Andre, with the twin referees, and Earl Hebner was part of storylines with Triple H during the McMahon-Helmsley era. So I'd love to see them go in, and I definitely love to see a referee branch of the Hall of Fame. I think that would be a good way to change things up a little bit. This one comes from Gregory CD1. Hey Aaron, please answer in videos. What did you think of the 2005 Royal Rumble where Vince McMahon supposedly tears both his quads? Do you think he was really hurt? Yes, he was really hurt. It's kind of funny you mentioned this question because when I was in Phoenix for the Rumble, I was talking with people about Royal Rumble moments, and this was always one of the most funny unintentional moments in Royal Rumble history. Vince coming out. For some reason, he ran to the ring. Don't know why he felt the need to run. Vince never really runs, and that was why he doesn't run, because he didn't quite make it all the way into the ring and tore his quad out, and then he tried to stand up and tore the other quad. So, it wasn't Vince McMahon's proudest moment, definitely, but it did make for a memorable Royal Rumble moment, no doubt about it. This one comes from 2Sexy316. Does CM Punk deserve to be on your top 25 superstars list? After his historic title reign, I think he should definitely be on it. Greetings from Poland. Well, when I did that top 25 list, that was almost a year ago at this point. I think I did it around May, June. So yeah, CM Punk at this point, if I have to reevaluate the list and redo it, I would think CM Punk would have to be on that list, no question, and in a key position on that list too, because he did something that hasn't been done in decades. Holding the title for over a year, and in this day and age too, it's even more impressive when the title's defended on every pay-per-view and on television. So CM Punk, had one of the best runs in WWE history, and he's only got the future. So I think that as the years go on, CM Punk's gonna have more moments, and he's just gonna continue to seal his legacy as one of the all-time great WWE superstars. This one comes from BITW or BIT Wrestling Fan. Hey Aaron, do you consider the Shield a bit of a ripoff of Aces and Eights? Not really. I consider the Shield to be more of a recreation of Nexus mixed with a bunch of Bull Buchanans in the riot gear, and they're kind of like the NWO too, with like the the NWO used to have those black and white promos, the very stylized promos, and the Shield has kind of the same thing with their little handy cams or whatever backstage and their camcorders or whatever. So I wouldn't say they're like Aces and Eights. Aces and Eights is like Sons of Anarchy brought to TNA Wrestling, and the Shield is just something totally different. Aces and Eights is like DOA if you're going to make comparisons between factions. All right, here's another TNA question. What do you think about Dixie Carter's big announcement that TNA will be on the road full-time for Impact Wrestling? I think it's a good idea if they can draw. That's the big issue. Can TNA go on the road and consistently draw people to the arenas? That's a big question, and that I think that's one of the things that's been holding them back from doing this, is that the fear that they'll go on the road and they won't be able to fill up the arenas, and they're going to end up losing a ton of money trying to go on the road full time. But it is something that has to be done. It's important because you need to be able to sample different crowds in different cities. When you're in Orlando every week, you don't. Orlando doesn't represent the entire country, so you just don't know how over a character is getting when you're running in the same city every single week. You need to be able to go on the road and see how different crowds react to your talent. So that's the number one reason why it's important, and it just creates a change of pace. It gets boring when Impact's in the same building every week, and that small crowd. TNA needs to be in big arenas with big crowds. That really adds to the atmosphere. But like I said, the problem is being able to draw those crowds. So it's one issue they're working on, but there's a bunch of other issues that they also need to work on, and hopefully it works out for them. I am pulling for TNA despite what some people think. I want to see them succeed, and I think the better they do, the better it is for the wrestling business in general. This one comes from G Player Mendez. How do you rate this Royal Rumble with no big surprise entrances? He's talking about this year's Rumble. And Cena and Ryback's match ending too quickly. And what about Rock and Punk's match and the way it ended? What was the best match WWE could do to make Punk finally lose the title? Please answer in video. I talked about this in my recap and in the previous NoDQ&AV video. I thought it was a great Royal Rumble. Was it the best Royal Rumble? No. I wouldn't put it in the top 5 Royal Rumbles, but it was certainly a very historic Royal Rumble. The Rock winning the WWE title. That was pretty much the best way you could do it. Have him win at the Royal Rumble, and CM Punk's 430-something day reign as champion. That was very significant and a memorable moment in WWE history. And that's what the whole story was about. Rock coming back and having one last run as WWE champion. So I liked it. The match I thought was very good. Wasn't the best match I've ever seen, but I think that they did the best job possible. And I really enjoyed the Royal Rumble. I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought that it was very entertaining, and there was some nice surprises in the match. I don't know why you said no big surprises. We had Chris Jericho, we had Goldust, and the crowd was going crazy for those guys. So it was a really fun atmosphere, and I really. I'm not too critical of the show. I know it was a bit predictable, but, I think people need to sometimes not worry so much about who wins and just sit back and enjoy the work. These guys are going out there and they're putting their bodies on the line, and they're going out there and taking these risks to entertain the people. So sometimes you just gotta not concern yourself so much with the finishes and just enjoy the product. This one comes from DX. Are you ready? Hey, Aaron, what did you make of the finish of... well, you're talking about the finish here, so I'll address this. What did you make of the finish of CM Punk versus The Rock? Rock won using something that mid-carders have kicked out of. It wasn't even a proper finish, and it made Punk look weak. I didn't have an issue with it. The Rock has used the People's Elbow as a finisher for years. Going back to the late 90s, he would beat people... with the People's Elbow. I don't think it's any different than Hulk Hogan using a leg drop to beat somebody. People buy it as a finisher, and it was actually a really impressive finisher because the way The Rock sold it, like when he did the People's Elbow, he did this huge bump after he hit CM Punk like he was elbowing a brick or something. I just thought that The Rock did a great job selling it, like he was shooting out of a cannon, or it was just the way he sold it. I thought was really impactful, and I had no issue with it. People buy it as a finisher, and he's done it many times in the past, using the People's Elbow to win matches. All right, this one comes from Maddie Dawn. Do you like Chris Jericho's return in 2007? And if you would have had the chance to book his return back then, what would have you done? Loved the show as well. I loved his return in 2007. The whole, the viral thing and the Save Us and the code. I thought it was really cool, and it was something unique. And the only thing I would have done differently was the period between, he came back, had the match with Randy Orton, and then he had that match with that feud with JBL, which I thought was pointless. I would have done something different, from January through when he turned heel in the spring. Maybe I would have done something different with Jericho. I wasn't really a big fan of the feud with JBL, and Chris Jericho just had a small role at WrestleMania. I would have definitely done more with him at that WrestleMania. So beyond that, I think that his return was tremendous, and then once he turned heel, he really built a lot of momentum. This one comes from BookerMan82. On Raw, The Rock said that CM Punk was a, quote, punk-ass bitch. Since this is the PG era, will The Rock get punished? No, The Rock will not be getting punished. The Rock is The Rock. He can pretty much get away with whatever. Nobody's going to complain. The sponsors aren't going to complain because he is The Rock, and The Rock is a guy that's drawn a ton of interest into WWE, and everybody's making money because of The Rock. So you're not going to get too much complaints. He's one of those guys that is pretty much invincible and can say and do whatever he wants, because if he's not happy, he'll just take a walk, So they're going to let him pretty much get away with whatever. All right, this last one comes from Crayon4810. Hey Aaron, I'm going to see a WWE pay-per-view for the first time in my life. My friend and I are going to see the Elimination Chamber in New Orleans, and I was wondering if you had any tips on how to find and meet the wrestlers. Well, my advice is don't come off like a stalker. If you do run into a wrestler, you can politely ask for an autograph or whatever, or a picture, but don't invade their space too much. They're just trying to live a normal life and try to get from point A to point B. A lot of fans try to go to the airport and wait for the wrestlers to arrive and then get an autograph or a picture or whatever. Restaurants near the arena and the hotels, right by the arena, that's where fans usually go to try to meet the wrestlers. But like I said, don't invade their space too much, and just try to be very polite and try to wait for the right opportunity. If it looks like they're tired or they're busy, just don't bug them. If it looks like, if they look like they're willing to take a picture or sign an autograph, then by all means, go ahead. All right, that'll wrap it up for this edition of No DQ&A Video, episode number 250. Thank you so much for all your support. Subscribe, youtube.com/NoDQCAW. Keep spreading the word about No DQ&A Video. I appreciate all the support from you guys. And I will see you this coming week for more No DQ&A Video.